Have you ever noticed how silence feels like a weight pressing down on you? Like it's more than just the absence of sound. It's something alive, something raw and honest. It's funny, isn't it? How silence, something so simple, can make people so uncomfortable. Why is that? It's because silence doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter you, doesn't sugarcoat reality. It's just there, exposing everything for what it truly is. And that's terrifying, isn't it? But let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No music, no phone buzzing, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. If you're being honest, you probably avoid it. And I get it. Silence has a way of bringing out the things we've buried, the truths we've ignored, the fears we don't want to face. But what if I told you that silence isn't something to fear? What if I told you it's the most powerful tool you'll ever have? You see, we live in a world addicted to noise. Every second of every day is filled with something. Social media, endless notifications, conversations, the hum of life constantly buzzing around us. And we've learned to depend on it. Why? Because noise is a distraction. It keeps us from hearing the one voice we're too afraid to listen to, our own. Think about it. Why do people scroll mindlessly on their phones, binge watch shows, or fill their calendars to the brim? It's not just to pass the time, it's to avoid the silence, because in the silence, you're left with yourself. And for a lot of people, that's the scariest place to be. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Silence isn't the enemy. Silence is a teacher. It's a mirror that reflects who you are when you strip away all the noise, all the distractions, all the masks you wear for the world. And in that reflection, you find strength. Because silence is power. It's control. It's the ability to hold your ground when the world is shouting at you to react. It's the art of choosing your battles, of deciding when to speak and when to let your silence speak for you. You know what silence does? It unnerves people. It makes them uncomfortable. Why? Because most people can't handle the truth, and silence is the ultimate truth teller. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who spent his whole life trying to fit in. He did everything people expected of him, smiled when he wanted to cry, agreed when he wanted to argue, and worked himself to the bone just to earn their approval. And for a while it worked. But one day, it all fell apart. The people he trusted betrayed him, the ones he loved walked away, and the noise, the constant noise of his life, was gone. At first, the silence felt unbearable. It was like staring into a void, like every fear and insecurity he'd ever buried was rushing to the surface. But slowly, something changed. In the silence, he started to hear a voice he hadn't heard in years, his own. And that voice told him the truth, that he didn't need their approval, their validation, their love. He was enough on his own. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Silence isn't easy. It's not for the faint of heart, because silence will challenge you. It will force you to confront every fear, every doubt, every failure you've ever tried to ignore. But here's the thing. Silence also transforms you. It strips away the weak parts, the fragile pieces, and leaves you with something unbreakable. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard, who doesn't need to fight to prove their worth. Because silence isn't weakness. It's strength. It's the loudest scream, the sharpest blade. Think about the last time someone insulted you, tried to tear you down. Your first instinct was probably to fight back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. But what if you didn't? What if you just stayed silent? Do you know what happens when you do that? They lose their power. Because silence forces them to sit with their own words, their own guilt, their own insecurities. And in that moment, you become untouchable. But silence isn't just about others. It's about you. It's about finding peace in the storm, about standing still while the world spins around you. It's about learning to listen, not just to the world, but to yourself. Because in the silence, you find clarity. You see things for what they really are. You realize that most of the noise in your life isn't worth your time or energy. So, I challenge you. Embrace the silence. Turn off the noise. Sit with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. Because in that silence, you'll find something incredible. You'll find strength. You'll find clarity. You'll find you. And when you do, the noise won't bother you anymore. The opinions, the judgments, the doubts, They'll bounce off you like rain on stone because you'll know who you are. So, let me ask you this. Are you ready to face the silence? Are you ready to stop running, to stop hiding, and to start listening to the voice that truly matters, your own? If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. And when you're ready, let me know in the comments. What does silence mean to you? If you found value in this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Let's start a conversation about the power of silence, because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that change the world.